2, 1. Well, welcome I'm tongue-tied. Welcome back to Relentless Talk Radio. It's episode 53. Happy New Year, everybody. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm here with Deric Keller from Battlefield Boardroom. Super excited to talk with you today, Deric. You and I met last year at the 11 Summits.
Right.
That's kind of cool. I was thinking about that after we spoke this morning, and thought that's kind of neat how you can meet somebody and have so much in common right out of the gate.
Right.
So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I'm Deric Keller. I started a company called Battlefield Boardroom. Where it all kind of stemmed from was I was in the Marine Corps. I went to combat. I came home. My transition home, I had a little bit of a tough time. I slept like 3 hours a night for 13 years. It was
Wow.
pretty rough. So I had quite a bit of struggles. And then when I started to figure it out and started to figure out, how to operate and even inside of operating on 3 hours of sleep, I was making big leaps inside a business and became the VP of sales. So once I figured out the sleep thing, then I figured I needed to figure out how to take it to some other people. And that's where Battlefield Boardroom kind of started, is I wanted to help combat veterans with the transition from combat to home. And then as I started going with it, that program still exists. It's a 30-day sprint program that I have, but I'm still operating that. But I found that I spent more time actually out in the boardroom than I did on the battlefield. So I had quite a bit more experience there, and I was resonating with a lot more businessmen and sales folks that definitely got the message and wanted to bring some of the things that I was doing into their business.
It's interesting that you talk about the sleep thing, because when I was living in New York City, I had a marketing company, I had my personal training company, and then I had a full-time gig freelancing, and I bartended on the weekends, right? Because you got to pay your rent. And
right.
When I moved back to Vermont, I had to learn how to sleep again, just like yourself. I had never slept more than 3 hours at a time when I was in New York City for 10 years. So I just think it makes you a little nutty.
It does.
Sleeping. And then you have to learn how to stay in bed for 8 hours or 7 hours or 6 hours and get it actually is a process. You have to teach your body how to do that again. It took me about a year and a half to learn how to sleep again.
Yeah, I sleep somewhere between 5 and 6 hours now, which is huge for me. But if I force myself to stay in bed longer, then I'm just messed up for the day. I'll be groggy and crappy all day and grumpy.
Wow. That's interesting. So isn't it funny how we start to go in one direction and then we discover, hey, while I've been doing this thing, something else happened and you had to pivot. We talked a little bit about that this morning too in our pre-conversation, that you have to pivot sometimes.
Right. So that's something that definitely was something that I learned in the Marine Corps, which was adapt and overcome. In the Marine Corps, we constantly had not the best of tools to work with. We actually had, hand-me-downs or whatever, all the equipment was older, and that's why we were so successful, is because we didn't rely on our equipment. We relied on ourselves and each other. So
that's a super important part, just that you rely on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you Marines do that better than anybody I know. I mean, I have friends who are Marines. They've been out of the Corps for 20 years, and they're still. I ride motorcycles with them, and every once in a while, they'll invite me to a Memorial Day celebration or something, and I get to watch 30 of them cook together and eat together, and it's just amazing how well they adapt to the circumstances and how they support each other and share food and space, and just it's really thank you very much for your service to our country.
Oh, thank you.
It's a huge thing that you guys do, and gals. I have a girlfriend, Lisa Marie, who's a Marine, and is no joke. I wouldn't want to piss her off. She'd take you right off the planet in a second, right? So that's what she's trained to do, and she's amazing. So why do you do it? I can kind of get, the first you started off being of service to your fellows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But why Battlefield ballroom? Why I want to say ballroom, boardroom.
Right.
Why? Ball dancing, I mean, it's the same kind of thing, shift and pivot. It's the same thing when you're ballroom dancing, right? Why did you decide to kind of do this with your life?
It was just, I watched so many people struggle trying to figure out direction and where to go and what they're trying to do. And really what really drove me inside of going into some of the other spaces was the way that people were selling, the way that people were operating in that space. So they'd set these targets and set these goals and never hit them and couldn't understand why. And it just blows me away that people are so stuck in the fact that they think they need to have this crazy closing technique to get people to buy from them. And I've spent a lot of time showing and proving that you don't need all these different closing tactics and word tracks and ways to trick people into buying. You just have to do your job up front. Build rapport, investigate, figure out what they want, figure out what they don't want, and put them in the right thing.
Yep.
And
I used to have a salon back east, and I remember watching one of my stylists not offer a solution to the lady that was in her chair who obviously had a problem. She had really dry hair. And I was kind of curious afterwards. I said, why didn't you offer Mrs. Smith this product that we have that could solve her problem? And she said, well, Mrs. Smith can't afford that. I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable. And I thought, how do you know that? Number one, right. I didn't hear you build any rapport with her to find out, anything about her. So you're just guessing based upon what you think Mrs. Smith may or may not have in her pocket. And you and I both know that the millionaire next door usually is Mrs. Smith.
All right.
Right. And yeah. You're offering to solve a problem. So whether you're selling them a car, or you're selling financial services, or you're selling health and fitness, or whatever it is, you're offering a solution to their problem, which is actually a service.
Right. So like one of the things that we did inside of the car business was change and get rid of salesmen and put what we called customer experience specialists, paid them a salary, just so all of our customers would get helped with no preconceived, hey, they can't buy or they won't buy, so I don't want to waste my time with them.
Right.
So they're getting paid either way. Their whole job is to meet and greet, build rapport, take somebody on a test drive, and then they're done. So at that point, the customer would come in and talk to a manager. But it was.
Did you find that your sales increased that way?
Yes, we took our store from selling 80 cars a month to 250 cars a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's tripling. That's basically tripling your volume.
Right. And we were doing it in a small town of 30,000. So there's dealerships here in Phoenix that are selling 100 cars a month because they're all trying to do it the old way and trying to jack price up or put the price real low. And then you come in and then they add all these fees and do all these things. Ultimately, what we figured out is customers just don't want to be lied to. They do 17 hours of research before they ever show up on your lot. So they pretty much know what they want to pay for the car. They show up. All you have to do is not lie to them and not piss them off.
It's really all about relationship building, right?
Right.
I mean, getting to know people and treating them like human beings. It's interesting. We talked a little bit about that the car salesmen are actually some of the most hated people out there, right? The car salesmen have a bad rap.
Yeah. So you immediately walk out on the lot and the customer hates you. So on top of reframing our salespeople and getting rid of the title salespeople and making them customer experience specialists, we had to reframe the customers as well and let them know, hey, these guys aren't here to sell you a car. They're just here to show you a good time, educate you, give you everything that you need to buy a car, whether you're buying it from us or not. We'll show you where you can get the most money for your trade, where you can find the best deal on the car, whether it's from us or not. We're going to give you all that information. And people would buy from us over and over and over again, so like the big thing was when we first started, we used to, the be back train is what we called it, when somebody would let somebody go and, if their customer's going to come back. We would always say that the be back train never comes back. But as we
Oh,
as we started this
I'll be right back.
process, right,
Right.
as we started this process, we started seeing the be-back train coming back like tenfold. We were having like customers would go to another dealership, get treated like crap, not get told a price, get run around the block, want a credit check before they ever did anything, all these different things.
100%.
And they'd just come right back. They wouldn't even go shop anymore. They didn't
100%.
care what we were charging for our car at that point. But I mean, one of the big things inside of what I was doing was I would price my vehicles down to the market as well. My vehicles were always in the top 5 within 500 miles. So like it was, I would do all the negotiation for them up front. They would just come in and buy the car.
You know, I grew up in a bicycle shop, and my mom was always the best salesman. You know why? Because my mom wasn't a salesman.
Right.
You'd come in and my parents sold everyone in Rutland, Vermont their first bike ever. So she was just doing the right thing for her neighbors. Well, Joey would come in, he was a certain height, and she would just fit them with the right bike. And she always said, I'm not a salesperson, but yet she sold more bikes than my father did. Because he was just being nice, let me help you get this bike because I know you want a bike and I want Joey to have the best bike, right? So that's really interesting.
Because she paid attention to their wants and their needs.
Exactly. And it was about them and not about her.
Right.
Which is another piece of it, right? Salespeople that are more concerned with their commission are making decisions based upon their paycheck. I think it's interesting what you were saying about your dealership making a decision to put people on salary. That's super interesting because, what happens is I think a lot of business owners are afraid that they can't have people be on commission because they won't have enough revenue to pay their salaries.
Right. That's because they're operating in lag measures. They're operating off the end number at the end of the month that they need to hit instead of operating in the lead measures, which are creating themselves.
Right.
So the more customers that get talked to, the more you're going to have, the more opportunities you're going to have.
Right.
The more test drives that you go on, your closing percentage goes up. If you're talking to the right customers, as far as like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate somebody to service to talk to every customer that comes into service and offer them an opportunity to buy a car. I'm gonna make sure that all my phone calls get answered by a professional, not my worst person who can't talk to people on the lot, but my best person, and put them in front of as many people as possible. You have to look at the different measures, like where are we getting our most customers? Where do we need our best people? How do we reframe our best people and get the most opportunities? And that's all we did. And just by doing that, we completely just blew up, and we literally sold cars to every state and also out of the country. We had people come in. We ship cars to Hawaii. We ship cars to Alaska. Ship cars to Europe. I mean, it was insane. We were just constantly busy, constantly doing things, and we were also doing it with less staff than most people did because everybody was doing something all day instead of sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
Right. I was just thinking about oh my God, I want to say Tire Kingdom. Is not what I mean. Discount Tire. Discount Tire is super smart because if you get anything in your tire, you go to them, they just fix the flat. And people think, how are they making a living? Let me tell you something. I wouldn't buy my tires from anyone but Discount Tire because they've helped me like 3 or 4. I can't even count how many times they fixed a tire. And I'll tell you, I'm going to go back and buy my tires from them because they were nice to me.
Right.
It's super duper smart.
My tires are actually from Discount Tire as well. And I didn't even buy them. The guy that I bought the little car from for my daughter gave me the receipt for Discount Tire, and I called him up and I was like, hey, got a nail in the tire. I don't know if you guys want to do anything about it. I understand if you don't. It's not. I'm not the original owner.
We'll get you in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they're like, bring it on over.
I've always used this Discount Tire, and I bought a car in between my last car and this car, like just to kind of get me through with that car payment for a while. It was an older car, and it was for my next door neighbor, and he gave me the receipt, and it had a warranty. And they not only replaced my tires, but it cost me nothing to replace my tires. I mean, it was just amazing because of the warranty. really super cool thinking. So what do you think the biggest lesson is that you've learned in business, being your own business owner, right? Because you've been, someone's texting me a lot. You've been your own business owner for a long time.
For 2 years.
So that's a long time in the world of business, right?
Right.
The difference between working for somebody else and working for yourself, right?
Right. Yeah.
What's your biggest lesson being self-employed?
My biggest lesson is to play CEO on Sunday and play employee throughout the rest of the week. Like I show up on Sunday and I build out whatever I have to do for the week. And then I just show up on Monday and I'm like, okay, I'm here to work. And I just do whatever tasks I have. Like if you, let's see, I don't know, if you see my board over there.
I was admiring your whiteboard back there. I love that.
Like
that's awesome.
that's my tasks that I set up on Sunday for me to do every week. So it's like, I got to do all these things. And then it's just easier because I just show up as an employee and I don't have to think. Like it's, and then
100%. You know, I've never heard it phrased that way, but I'm a real process person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm building a team right now, and and they're not process people because they're doing whatever they're doing. And so I'm building out a Trello with every single process they need to follow, so that not only for myself, right? And then I'll share it with them, because if it's going to work for me, it's going to work for them, right? So putting together like a checklist of things that every new user, new teammate, new associate, new manager is going to have to follow to be successful. You can only make so many decisions in a day, right?
Right.
There's a reason why Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day. It was because there was one less decision he had to make. And if you looked at my closet right now, I have all my reds, blacks, greens. I have the same color format, so I don't have to think. I just know exactly where to pull from, and I can just walk out the door, because I know that if I take too much decision on my clothes, it's going to fatigue my mind.
I get to choose between green or black.
See, awesome, right? That's perfect. That's perfect.
Right.
You know, I have ways I wear my hair and certain things, just little processes. I put my keys in the same place. You know, so I think it's a really cool way to put it. You're the boss on Sunday, and you set up the task for the week, and then you just pretend like you're not in charge and follow your own direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Until something comes up and I have to play CEO, but I just put on that hat when I have to.
Right.
Other than that, I'm just operating inside of what I need to do. With you rolling on and bringing on new team members, have you read the book 4 Disciplines of Execution?
No, I haven't, but I'm writing it down.
Yeah, you should definitely read that book. It's all about basically what I was talking about. And this book didn't even exist when we were doing it. So it was pretty cool to read this book. I just got done reading it, and it was all about lead and lag measures, setting wildly important goals, and having scoreboards and weekly meetings to keep everybody on track. And they're not just accountability meetings, they're team meetings on, hey, what's working, what's not working.
You know, I'm a big believer in that. Creating something and then using it and testing it. You know, so when I was in grad school, I had the luxury of being the senior administrative coordinator for the leadership department for a corporation called IDX System Software, which is now GE Healthcare. And so we were a Six Sigma organization. And so I was able to kind of watch the leaders of the company run a Six Sigma organization, where you create something, you test it, you adjust it, you test it, you adjust it, and you keep on going through that process until you have the most perfect process you can have. And just when it gets perfect, you can have to change it again.
Right. So we actually had, I just did innovation boot camp, me and a buddy of mine, Naveen. I went in and did the accountability for him, and he taught his innovation process. And he, so you've got ask the question, like what's needed, and then build an MVP, a minimum viable product,
right?
Test and learn, adjust, test and learn with customers, and then adjust accordingly. And you just keep cycling through, ask a new question. So basically the same thing.
I think the adjust accordingly thing is interesting, because I think sometimes people get so stuck in their ways. Oh, we don't do it that way here.
Right.
Well, okay. Well, how's it working for you? I mean, if you're doing it that way and it's working, then I'm all for it. But if it's not working, then you got to shift something.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we flew this past week, and I won't get into the crazy family that was sitting behind us and how they just literally disrupted the entire plane. The most commented post ever on Facebook was about the crazy family behind us. It wasn't like a bad child that was acting out and the parents correcting. It was just a crazy, inconsiderate, nut job family. We just sat there like, wow, I can't believe we're not reacting. So I won't talk about that, but I will talk about the customer service piece of it and just how disorientated the airline was. And I won't out them on social media, but they just were totally disorganized. And I thought, wow, they've missed the point, because every person who's of service to me in this situation is a salesperson for the company, because your experience I'm experiencing is going to encourage me or discourage me from spending my money with you again. And I can tell you, I'm highly unlikely to spend my money with that airline again because of how they handled the entire process throughout the entire experience.
Hence the reason customer experience specialist.
Right. Exactly. And the reason why people went elsewhere, got the rigmarole, roll around, I don't trust you experience, and then came back to you guys because they were being taken care of like human beings there. My dad is in the hospital right now. It took my mom 48 hours to see a doctor.
Oh, man.
He got pneumonia in both lungs, and 48 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's the first part where that's not good care. That's not healthcare. That's the healthcare industry, not the healthcare experience.
Is he at the VA?
Say again?
I said, is he at the VA?
He's right. The VA, another thing, like, the VA just doesn't take care of people either. But it's just another opportunity where, is that the doctor I'm going to see in the future? I mean, it's just incredible how we don't think of every single experience as a sales experience one way or the other, because it's all about relationship building.
Oh, absolutely.
How often do you think that people repurchase a vehicle from the same person they buy from in the beginning?
I don't know the exact statistics, but our repeat and referral was through the roof when we were selling. I mean, we had like I think it was an 80% return rate. We owned 85% of our market, which was unheard of in Ford.
Crazy.
So like the Ford store owned 85% of the market. So basically nobody was leaving to buy Fords anywhere else.
Right. Well, it takes 3 times as much cash to recreate a customer than it does to keep one. So it kind of behooves you to treat them right the first time, because you want them to come back in 5, 6, 7 years when they get rid of that car and buy the next one. How often do people turn over a car, do you think? How many years?
Every 2 to 3 years. Every
2 to 3 years. That's a really short cycle. I thought it was longer. I drive my cars until the wheels are falling off.
You're the exception.
But I take care of my cars too. Like if you get into one of my cars that's 7 or 8 years old, you'll think it's brand new because I keep it immaculate. That's the key to keep it clean. So we were talking about New Year's resolutions and how they usually don't work, and the 5 reasons why they don't work, and some reasons, the things you can do to counteract that. When's the time you set a resolution that it worked? When's the time that you set a resolution that didn't work, and what's the difference between the two? Can you think of those?
Well, I can tell you right now that I've never set a resolution that worked, ever. And I'll tell you why here in just a minute. Is I've set multiple resolutions to lose weight, to quit chewing, to quit drinking, to quit.
Are you a chewer?
Yeah.
Dude,
so I would.
So bad for you.
I kept saying quit, and by framing it as quit, I would quit.
Right.
I would quit quitting. So I would just go right back. So like what I found is I needed to stop using the word quit, and I needed to change it to, hey, I'm going to build this new habit to where I and work this other habit out. So I would start doing habit stacking and start putting new things in, saying that, hey, I can't chew until I have this stuff done. And then I would throw something else in behind it, until pretty soon I was to the end of the day where I didn't have it.
Right.
And
that's
then
awesome. That's a good way to do it.
The other thing that I do now is I don't wait for New Year's. So like if I decide that I want to do something, I'm like, okay, well,
100%.
That's what's happening. So I'm starting that today, or I'm starting that in this 90-day challenge. And so and I don't start my 90-day challenges on January 1 either. Like this challenge actually ends January 18th. So I mean, it's just the way that I operate is I move when I need to move, and whenever I have the thought, I create and I move.
Yep.
Because if you wait, then it's never going to happen. You're gonna tell yourself a story that it's going to happen, and you're not going to build a plan. Like one of the biggest things is building a plan and not looking like like we were talking about earlier. People will set these resolutions of they want to go create this huge thing, and they get so fixated on what they're trying to create at the end that they forget about the work in between. And then they can't figure out why it keeps falling apart on them.
Well, that was the third reason people fail, is they get overwhelmed, discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
So if you set such a way out there goal and you don't create the micro steps to get there,
right,
you're not where your feet are, and so you're way out here, and you get discouraged, and it just seems like, insurmountable. So you just say screw it.
Right. So that's like one of the big things that I do is I set benchmarks.
Yeah.
So every week I'll have some sort of a benchmark, like say that I am running a marathon on the 18th. So I've ran a half marathon on the 18th of January. Yeah.
Wow. Where's the marathon?
It's the rock and roll one. I don't know, somewhere up there.
Yeah.
But so I ran a half marathon, which was the Gilbert Fun Run or whatever on whenever it was just a month ago or so. But there's benchmarks where, hey, you know what? I'm not going to say I'm going to go run a marathon when I haven't ran a mile. I might say that I'm going to. So if I say that I'm going to run a marathon and I haven't ran a mile, okay, well, I'm going to run a marathon on this date and set a date and book it. And hey, this is what I'm going to do. And then go out and run your first mile. That's all I need to do this week. Is this week I'm running 1 mile. Then next week I'll run 2 miles, and next week I'll run 3 miles. Next week I'll run 5 miles. It just keeps. So you got to keep building on it, because if you just try to shoot for the stars, you're just and not do any of the work in between, you're going to fail miserably, and you're going to continue to quit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, for sure. It's funny as you're talking about doing a marathon. That's like a huge. That's 26 miles. That's like a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you haven't run a mile, it's not that you can't set that lofty goal. You just got to break it down into micro chunks.
Yeah, this all started on a short run, and I was telling myself a story in my head that I wasn't a runner. And then as I started to tell myself that story, I was like, well, what is a runner? I'm running right now. What is a runner? What's my definition of a runner? And I was like, well, a runner runs races. Well, I've ran races. I've ran, track in high school, but I never ran any long distance races. Okay. So a runner runs long distance races. Well, I was like, well, okay, well, I run basically a 5K every day. So how the heck does this work? So I booked the half marathon and booked the marathon. And I was like, well, maybe if I get a medal, then I'll feel like a runner. So I went and ran the half marathon, got the medal thing, and I'm like, I'm still not quite a runner, but I'm going to do the big marathon, and then maybe a big ultra after that, maybe the 50 mile, and then maybe I'll work my way up to the 100 mile. I don't know.
And you're doing the 11 summits this year, which we don't know what the date's going to be yet, but that's when a bunch of crazy people get together and hike 11 mountains in like 48 hours or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah. So we do 48 hours. We do 11. It's 50 miles and 20,000 feet in elevation.
So our friend Jim Stagg, nut job, had a heart attack last year.
Right after
he got done hiking, he had like a weird something floating around in his heart and just fluke. Total the shape of his life, some weird little piece of plaque, heart attack, could have died. And I just love Jim. He gets up I think he gets up like 3 days a week and does Camelback Mountain. And he's been doing that since I met him, and he's just such an impressive character. And I love the people that are around him, because we're all kind of crazy little how would you describe us? We're a little extreme.
Well, yeah. So to hang out with Jim, his motto is get get comfortable being uncomfortable. So
Exactly.
you've got to definitely be uncomfortable all the time and put yourself in uncomfortable situations and challenge yourself. You know, that's the only way you're going to grow. So
our mutual friend Luke, did you meet Jim first or Luke Kayam first?
I knew Jim first from
Okay,
the
so Luke, I met
Warrior
Luke
program.
years ago, like 10 years ago. He's one of the first people. He's a good friend of mine. I've helped him with several things in his business. He's been a business partner. He's been an associate. He's been a friend. And he's like, Michelle, you really need to meet Jim. And, I think one of the things that Jim and I have in common is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I also think that you have to do something that scares the shit out of you at least once a year.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean like jumping out of a plane, because Jim does jump out of planes.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to jumping. It's on my list of shit to do, right? But to me, getting up on a stage in a tiny little bikini at 50 years old was like a big deal, right? I avoided the whole bikini fitness competition when I was younger. And then I just one day thought, I'm just going to go do one of those things because it scares me. And that's why I'm not doing it. So I did it last year. And when I was behind, what was surprising to me is I thought that I had a very different perception about what I thought the back room was going to look like. And what happened for me was my competitive side was reawakened. So I'm doing another one this year. And we'll see how that goes. So how do people get a hold of you?
So you can go to DericKeller.com. You can go to BattlefieldBoardRoom.com. You can look me up on Facebook. I'm always available there. Email is Deric@BattlefieldBoardRoom.com. You got to spell my name right, though. It's Deric. So it's like
Deric. Did I misspell it?
No, you did. You spelled it right. I'm just telling everybody else.
Telling everybody else it's because this is going to be on podcast. Deric Keller, KELLER.com.
Yeah.
So you've got two things coming up. This we want to touch base on before we sign off. You're writing a book called Experience Driven Sales.
Yes.
So you got a little more work to do on that, but tell me about that.
So Experience Driven Sales, it's all about building profits one experience at a time is how I framed it, because it's basically everything that we were talking about, the process that I rolled out inside of the dealerships, how I've rolled it out inside of other businesses as well and made it work. It's just all about the experience and everything that you're giving to the customer, creating the experience to where they will buy.
Awesome. Well, when you get it done, let me know. I'll have you back on. And for sure, give me links so I can share it on Relentless Talk Radio and all my platforms so I can help you sell it. How's that?
Yeah. That's I've already bought the web domain and I've got to get the funnel going and all that stuff. And
one step, you break it down in little micro chunks, right? You're working your plan, I'm sure. And the other thing that you have going on this year is you're doing a conference for auto dealerships right here in Phoenix. You haven't picked the location yet, but have you picked the date?
I still haven't. It's probably going to be the first week in February. Will be my guess.
People should kind of if people are in the auto industry, they definitely should go to DericKeller.com and kind of pay attention. They can follow you on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll be announcing things there. I was looking at your Instagram earlier, and I loved some of the things that you had on your Instagram. And I wish I'd kept it open.
Just I put some quotes on there every day. So it's usually like whatever my revelation is while I'm in extreme amounts of pain.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I do Facebook Lives on my personal profile, and usually I'll come up with something right after I do an hour of 90 minutes of hot yoga.
Right.
And I'm looking at your Facebook profile now to take a look at your look at your Instagram photos, but I can't remember what they were. I should have written them down, but there was a couple really good ones there. So they can go to your Instagram photos on Deric Keller on Facebook, or they can actually go to, is it Deric Keller at Deric Keller, or is it Battlefield Boardroom?
Nope, it's just at Deric Keller on Instagram as well. That's a great experience is putting yourself under pressure. I did 60 miles up in the Sierra Nevadas this year too. That was
and running.
Yeah, well, it was called the Endeavor Team Challenge. We finished it in 30 hours. We were number 10 out of 60 something teams, but it was just two of us, and which was probably my scary thing this year. The thing that really put me put me in a different spot because I guess I didn't tell you that I have COPD from being over in Iraq. So I only got 60% lung function.
Oh my God, you're
So
kidding me.
getting up there at elevation and pushing, I was coughing up blood. It was pretty bad, but we finished it.
So you have COPD
Mm-hmm.
and you have 60% lung function, and
Mm-hmm.
you're putting yourself under this kind of extreme pressure, which is more pressure than people normally would put themselves under with 100% lung function.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, you just don't accept whatever the doctors are saying.
Well, my mom has COPD, and that's about what she's got, about 40% functionality. I know how hard it is for you. So now I just know what a badass you really are. That's really crazy.
Well, thank you.
Do you think there's a correlation between extreme athletes like ourselves and, I'm a motorcycle person. I've been a swimmer and an athlete my whole life. I at my top, I was bench pressing 275, squatting 450. I'm not doing that today after shoulder surgery, but do you think that there's a correlation between hyper athletic people and successful salespeople?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because they experience failure a lot.
Right.
When you're training and doing all these things, you're experiencing failure a lot. So when you fail inside a business, they just look at it as a new stepping stone of, hey, well, I just got to get better here, and I just got to keep going and keep pushing. And whereas, generally everybody else kind of looks at it and goes, oh, I failed, I'm done. So,
And that's what this entire Relentless Talk Radio thing is about. Because when I first started my company, it was called Fearlessly Deliver.
mm-hmm.
And it was because I wanted to fearlessly go out and pursue and deliver projects to people. And I realized somewhere along the way that I was no longer fearless, I was relentless.
Right.
Because once you get over your fear, you hunker down and you're like, I'm just getting after this shit. It's not even about being afraid anymore. It's just, I'm just going after it. And I'm going to be like a gnat around your head until I get this thing done. Right. And I think that people that are successful are like that. They just keep at it. They keep gnawing at it until they figure it out. Whether you're Thomas Edison and you're trying to invent a light bulb, he failed 10,000 times to create the light bulb. And he would say, I didn't fail to not create the light bulb. I found 10,000 ways it didn't work so I could find the one way that did.
Exactly.
And I think that's what sales is, and that's what being a business owner is, that's what being an athlete is. It's just trying to figure out what the right formula is. And you have to fail a lot. In fact, if you're weight training, failure is the goal.
Right. Yeah.
You want to actually get to the point where you can't lift anything.
Right.
That's really interesting. I guess I have thought about it, but never in those words. So I thanks for giving me that. Well, yeah, Deric, I wish you a super duper happy New Year, dude. And I wish you luck at your marathon. Can you make sure you tag me on some posts so I can I can remember to worship you on Facebook, because that's a really incredible thing to do as a marathon. So I'm super impressed by you. And I for sure will be at the 11 Summit supporting on one level or another. Last year I caught you guys at Camelback. I think that's where you and I met.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, Jim had his heart attack. So it's just crazy for me. I've caught him on Camelback a couple times. So, but I'll definitely be, doing some part of the hike and shouting you guys out on Relentless Talk Radio. Is it still the same charity that you guys are benefacting this year, CASA?
Yep. We're still doing the CASA. I'll give you that link as well. I'll share that over on the messenger so you can share it with people. But yeah, go in and donate. It's all I believe I'm pretty sure it's 93% or something like that of the cash goes directly to the kids. Yeah. So it's a huge thing, and we love helping them out. I mean, they're
an awesome organization for sure. No doubt.
Court-appointed special advocates, and it's for the foster children and all that are taken out of homes and put in a bad spot, or they were in a bad home and now they're in a spot where they're trying to recover.
It's court-appointed special advocates, right? It's a CASA.
Right.
Cool. And I think it's casa.org or it's 11summits.com. Am I right about that?
11summits.com, and then you just go to the donation link, and then you just pick a hiker. Pick me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Deric. Happy New Year. Thank your wife for letting me bore you for the afternoon, and enjoy your children. And we'll see you in the new year.
All right. Fantastic.
Take care of yourself now. All right, everybody, that's the end of episode 53 of Relentless Talk Radio, and it's the end of the first year of Relentless Talk Radio's year. I guess, last year I had the idea in October. We had our first shows in December, so now we're just past a year worth of episodes, and we're going into our second year of Relentless Talk Radio starting 2020. So I hope everybody has a happy new year, whatever you're doing. If you're drinking, this is me talking to you drinkers, that's fine. Have a good time, but take Uber or Lyft or get a friend, a designated driver. Please don't get on the road drinking and driving on New Year's. It's a really sad thing when we lose people on New Year's. So go out and enjoy and have a happy New Year, but please do it as safely as you possibly can. And we'll see you in the new year on Relentless Talk Radio. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good day.